Alright guys, so let's take a more in-depth look at the interface in FL Studio. So the most important things that you need to know and that you're actually going to use day by day is to switch between the pattern and the song. So you can do it like that. And I will explain in a moment what this does, the song and pattern mode. You can also change the tempo here as I showed before. You can also right click and choose different tempos, or you can go to set here and you can choose the tempo like that by increasing and decreasing like that if you want to. You can also go to type in value here and just type in the value that you want like that. And as you can see on all of the things I hover here, you can see this little window here or this little section here in FL Studio where everything is explained. So as you can see, it tells you that this is the typing keyboard to piano keyboard, for instance, and this is scrolls to reach time markers, for instance, and so on and so forth. So you can also see the different key commands for that. For the function that I'm hovering over here. You can see Command B there, for instance. And here we have all of the recording and editing buttons here. And here are all of the Windows buttons. And there's the pattern selector as well. You can also rename the pattern here. So let's say that we want to rename it as test. And you can also drag up and down here to select the different patterns. So as soon as I do that, you can see that it's adding a pattern to the playlist. It may not make any sense to you right now what these patterns does and why it shows up in the playlist, but I will explain that more in depth in a while. I will also create a full track in this course, so you will see how I use the playlist and use the different patterns as well. So I think that will make a lot more sense to you when you're watching me create that track live. The way it works with FL Studio when you're creating songs is that you're creating patterns, and then you're taking these patterns or clips and just arrange them in the playlist, so that way you arrange the track. So let's close all of these windows here like that. So as you can see here, first section we have in FL Studio is the browser section. And here you can see all of the different samples and different files you have on your computer, as well as the different plugins that comes with FL Studio, as well as different plugins that you have as audio units on Mac or VST on PC. And this is the third-party plugins, such as Native Instruments plugins or other plugins that you may have on your computer. Channel rack here. And here are all of the different samples that are stored in this project, basically. So creating patterns within this channel rack. And after that, when you're creating the pattern, you can insert that pattern to the playlist. So the channel rack contains all of the samples that you have in the project. And here is also where you create the patterns that you will have in the playlist here to create the track. Easily explained, you create your patterns within the channel rack, then you drag the channel rack into the playlist. You can have as many patterns as you want in the playlist. Then you will chop them up, you can copy, paste them over, you can loop them, you can arrange them wherever you want. So you're basically painting out the patterns here in the arrangement or in the playlist here. So that is how you create the track. Mixer section here. So here is the mixer, all of the different channel tracks here that goes out to the master, as you can see. And I will explain a lot more within the mixer, what it does and how you work with it in a separate video. So just so you know that. And I'm going to have all of the different sections here, all of the channel rack, the playlist, the mixer section, the browser, as well as separate videos, just so you will know what they do. It's good to know exactly in depth what they do before working with it. I still don't believe in like explaining a very much in theory behind the different sections. I mean, all of these different sections are basically the different elements that you need to have to create your track. It's just that it works different in FL Studio comparing to other digital audio workstations. So you need to know how to do that in FL Studio, and I will show that by creating a full track. I think you will learn FL Studio the most when watching me creating the full track. So let's close all of these windows here. We're going like that. All right, so now we have everything closed. So I will explain you exactly how the signal flows through here in the FL Studio. So first you have the browser, and you can see all of the different files in the browser and all of the different files that we have, the plugins as well. As you can see here, this is the current project, so you can also search for different patterns, effects, generators, and the history, what you have done in the current project here as well. You can also see the plugin database, so you will just get the plugins here, so you can find all of the FL Studio's built-in effects and generators here, as well as the installed effects or generators. So let's say that I have some different VST plugins here, third-party plugins, so you can see all of them here as well. And you just double-click on the plugin to load it up as well. So if you go to the browser here, and you go to all, so you can see the same thing here as well as here. You can also create a new snap, so you can create your own view of the different things that you need, that you want to have in the browser. But if you go back to all, you can also search for different samples that we have here in the browser as well. If you want your own folder here, as you can see, there are different preset folders here. You can add them in. So let's say that I have a sample pack folder on my hard drive. You can add that to the browser here as well. So you do that by go into options and file settings. And here you can see browser extra search folders. So here I can just press the folder and just find, let's say, a sample pack. All right, so I want that sample pack, or let's say that I want the full sample pack folder. So I'm opening up like that. I can also choose a folder inside of the folder. So let's say that I want Deep House Top Loops folder here as well. So now I can also choose a browser name here if I want to call it something else than a folder. But let's have it like that. And now I can see this is the, you can expand them like this, like that. So that is very nice to use. And the browser in FL Studio is amazing. It's very fast, it's very quick, it syncs with the tempo if you're working with loops and other stuff like that, so that is very nice. The way the signal flow works in FL Studio is that you choose your samples here in the browser. So let's say that I want to use this sample here. So I just right click and open a new channel, and that will load up this interface here. And this is basically the sampler in FL Studio. You can see the sample, you can browse it like that, you can also drag it like that, you can reverse the sample, normalize, you have a lot of different things you can do here. You can also ADSNR, so you can choose your attack time, you can choose release time of the sample, and a lot more. Pitch range is very nice to have here as well. You can also automate all of these things here, so you can choose the pitch range to go to, let's say, to 12, which is an octave, and then you can automate the pitch, let's say from here to here, and you will have 2 octaves that you can pitch up, for instance. So you can create a riser by that. So you can be very creative with these things that FL Studio has. You can also choose the root nodes. So here you have the root node set to C5, but you can click, let's say, right click here, and you can also choose the zone here. So you can choose how many keys you want the sound to be affecting. So I can now only play from C3 to, let's say, B7 here, as I chose. You can fine tune the different root nodes as well. So yeah, you can do that as well, but this is a drum loop, so I'll just leave it like it is. And now as soon as I created a new channel, I'll go to the channel rack here, and you see we have that sample. I just imported twice, so I can delete one of those. Okay, so now we have this drum loop here in the channel rack. So what we can do here is to place the samples here, but since this is a drum loop, I don't want to do that. It goes from the channel rack, goes to the playlist here, then to the mixer, out to the master channel, and that is what you hear through your speakers. So let's go back and create a pattern. So I'm going to close these windows here. Let's see, let's do it like that. And the channel rack and that one as well. let's go to the channel rack, and I also want the playlist to be like this. So as you can see, as soon as I put the playlist, the channel rack disappears in the background. So I have to click to get back to it, and as soon as I work with something in the playlist, it disappears. So what we can do by that is to go to this drop down menu in the channel rack and just choose detached like this, and now it will stay here, so I don't have to worry about this disappearing all the time. Otherwise, you can just click here to make it disappear and to make it go back. All right, so let's import a sound that we want to have in our project. So every time we load up FL Studio with a new project, you will always get the kick, clap, hat, and snare loaded up as per default. So what we can do here is to go to packs. Let's say here we have different sounds that comes with FL Studio, and I want some drums. So let's say I want a kick drum here. I can click to preview them like that. So let's say that we want 808 kick, and just take from here and drag it onto this space here. That will create a new channel for us with this sample loaded up. Some different instruments. So let's say we want an instrument here. I want a guitar, let's say a classical acoustic guitar, and I can just choose one of these and just drag them in like that as well. So if I click on one of these instruments here, or these samples that we have in this project, we get this little window that I talked about briefly previously, and this is the wrapper as they call it in FL Studio. I can preview the sound by clicking here, as you can hear, and yeah, as I showed before, we can do different stuff, ADSNR and stuff. So that is very nice to have, and you just click on the sound to get the respective wrapper of that sound. More stuff in the channel rack. So as you can see, I have these little dial buttons that you can choose the pan here for all of the different instruments that we have, and the volume here as well. And if we open up the wrapper, you can see that if I choose the volume here, it's linked to the wrapper here as well, like that. Then we have this little dialog box here that is the number for the mixer track that we want to have. So if we open up the mixer, you will see all of these channels that we have in the mixer. So let's say that I want the kick drum to be assigned to channel 10. Then you go and do it like that, and you will also see that this selected instrument here is actually linked or selected here in the mixer as well. You can browse through them like that. You can also go and right click here and choose copy value. You can also do that as well in a lot of different things in FL Studio, that instead of just browsing through like that, you can just right click it, and then we will always go and get this little menu here as well. And they are very handy. You can link to controller to automate stuff, but just for the basic stuff right now, you can copy and paste values, for instance. So let's say that we want to copy this value here, and we want the same value in this one. You can just paste the value and you will get exactly the same thing. You can do that with knobs. Let's say you can do that with copy value here, and you can paste the value here, for instance. So that is very handy to have there. And yeah, as I said before, you can browse around them like that. You can also type in values. So let's say we want them to be assigned to mixer track 20. Let's just do it like that as well. All right, so let's create an actual pattern here. So I'm going to close these windows here, and as you can see, I'm on pattern 3 here because we did a test pattern before. But let's go to the plus sign here, and we have the pattern 2 name. So let's create our first track. I'm going to do a kick drum here. I'm going to choose a color, so let's choose that color for now, and just confirm that. And yeah, we have the kick here, and I'm going to change the color of this kick drum as well to the same color, or kind of the same, just so I know that the kick drum in the channel rack is linked to the kick drum in the playlist. Or program the kick pattern in the step sequencer here. So let's do that. You can just click or left click the notes that you want to have in the channel rack. You can also delete them by just right clicking on them like that. You can also drag all of these like that. You can drag it with the right click to get rid of them. So let's program a basic 1/4 kick drum pattern here, and let's just play it. And there is our pattern. So now we have a pattern here, and you can drag it out to the playlist like that, and you can listen to the arrangement with this pattern here. So that is how you create a pattern in FL Studio. It's very easy to do that. Play this pattern here and just go to the mixer. You will see that since we chose this kick drum sample to be linked to the channel track 20 here in the mixer, you will see that the audio output will come out through the mixer track number 20. And now I think you will see the difference between the pattern and the song selection that we had here in the transport control. You can see the song, then we're just going to play what's in the song or what's in the playlist or our arrangement. That's the same thing here. So let's say that we have this kick here. We can actually just go like that. We can create some more here. And now if we play the song, then you will play all of these things that you have here in the playlist. So that is our patterns times 3 basically. So if you go to play here, you will see that we will play all of these patterns in the playlist. But if you go to the pattern mode here, then you will see that the selected pattern here will be played. Actually select the patterns here. So if you go to test here, we don't have anything there, so it would not play anything, and the kick. And you can also browse through the different patterns here. You can also create new one as I showed before, and you can see different settings for this basically. So you can rename a color, you can select in the playlist, you can clone one, that is a very nice one to have. You can also delete and move it up and down. But I think this view is better to do that for. Another option in this channel rack here with the step sequencer, you can also open up something called Graph Editor, which will generate a few different options for the selected notes that you have here. So for instance, you can pitch the notes here. You can also put some different velocity. So there's a lot of different things you can do here. You can also pan the different individual sounds here as well. And you can just play around with this. There's a lot of different things you can do here. Let's take a look at the playlist here. So let's close the channel rack. And the playlist is where we going to arrange our tracks. So I'm going to take all of these pattern clips here and just move them like that. And as you can see, you add a new pattern by just left click, and you delete it with the right click. You also have a lot of different tools here. So as you can see, we're now at the paint tool, but you can also choose draw tool, which will allow us to just put one and then move it. You can't paint it like with the paint tool, like this. Then we have some different tools. So delete, you just click it and delete it. But that is, I mean, when you're using the paint or draw mode, that will actually be built in by just right clicking on the pattern. Then you have mute, so you can mute an individual pattern like that, and you can also enable the sound like that. See, you can put all of these patterns here in whatever track you want, so you can actually do it like this if you want to, but just to stay organized and let's delete all of these, to have one individual sound per track, it's very nice to just rename, color, and icon the track itself. So let's do that. I'm going to go with kick, put a similar color there as well, and just make it like that.